Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry. It's your boy Karagol Gaming, and you know how we do things around here. We're gonna get right into it, fam. Let's go. At lunchtime the next day, everybody in class was talking about Rena's disappearance. We were all worried about her safety, but I kept a safe distance from everybody else.
レナはどこに行っちゃったんだろうね。鬼隠しにあったなんていい加減なことを言ってる連中もいるよ。まったく。
ケイチさん、今日は元気がありませんでしたよ。
Now don't you meet me. Satoko and Rika-chan noticed something odd about my attitude.
俺は
I couldn't sleep at all last night because of what Rena told me. Friends don't keep secrets from one another. That sentence bit into my heart, and I couldn't sleep because of the pain.
ミオ、サトコもリカちゃんも話しておきたいことがある。
Oh damn.
レナに関すること？
いや、そうじゃない。俺自身についてのことなんだ。
I decided to tell them about it because they were my friends. But I didn't know what I was expecting to change by doing so. They might despise me. I mean, was there any benefit in telling them? No, there wasn't, and I knew that for sure. But I still wanted to tell them about it just because I thought it would help heal the pain I was feeling.
ケイチさんのことですの？
ああ、ちょっと真面目な話なんだ。聞いてほしい。俺が引っ越してくる前のことなんだ。当時の俺は勉強しか脳のないやつだった。
I learned the tricks of the game called studying at my cram school. I enjoyed this sense of superiority I felt by getting good grades. I kept studying just because I wanted to look down on the other students. When my grades got better, my parents got happier, and my teachers praised me. I felt good. It was fun to look down on the students who were good at running, dodgeball, or swimming. That was the only reason I kept studying. Before I knew it, not only was I the top of my class, I was at the top of my school. So I started to think I was the most important student there. I looked down on the kids who were playing in the schoolyard during lunch break. I enjoyed feeling a sense of superiority to them in my insignificance. The more I studied, the better everybody expected me to do. They started to place high hopes on me. They expect me to go to the best school in Japan. I flattered myself in thinking I deserved to go to that school as well. But the fun went out of looking down on people, while the burden of studying didn't change a bit. My classmates stopped admiring my cleverness after a while, and my teacher started to push me to study more. All of a sudden, the fun had gone out of it. To begin with, I didn't even like to study. I had average reflexes, I was average in a fight, I was an average boy with nothing that really drew attention. So when I found something that I could use to get that attention, I jumped on it. It happened to be studying for me, but if it was riding a unicycle or juggling, I would have done that too. When I realized I didn't enjoy studying anymore, it got very boring. I was just a little boy who wanted to be praised when I did something better than anybody else. I finished all of my summer homework because my parents praised me for it, and I took charge of cleaning duties at school because my teachers praised me for it. So when they stopped praising me for what I did, I began to feel as though my life had no meaning. My parents used to give me an allowance that was proportional to how good my grades were, so I used to get a substantial amount of money for my age. I don't know if I had a natural interest in violence or if I was looking for it because of my frustration at the time. I took an interest in BB guns. At first, I shot at cardboard boxes. It was fun. Being violent at pieces of cardboard relieved a lot of stress for me. Nobody blamed me for doing that. But soon, I started wanting to do something I should have never done. On the box that my BB gun came in was a warning label that read, "Do not shoot at people." That was when I thought about doing just that. Why did I do something I shouldn't have? I guess I was just immature. I wasn't interested in studying anymore, but I forced myself to do so anyway. My parents forced me to go to several cram schools. I was mad at them for that. I should have told them I didn't want to study no more, but I didn't have the courage to do that. So I used my frustration as an excuse to do something cowardly. I shot at kids who were younger than I was with my BB gun. It gave me such a thrill. It felt so good to do something bad when I was so overcome with studying. Needless to say, I had no personal grudge against the kids I shot. As long as the kids passed through a deserted street, they met the requirements to become my target. I didn't mean to hurt them. I shot at them once or twice from a distance. That was all I wanted to do. But sometimes, they didn't react at all because the BBs hit a thicker part of their clothes or something. I didn't like that, so I started to shoot until they noticed they were being hit. It inevitably escalated into a barrage of gunfire. I study a lot, I'm doing something good, so I deserve to get to do something bad to balance out the good thing I'm doing. That was the unbelievably selfish excuse I made. I thought I had a right to do things like that because I was suffering myself. I thought people who weren't suffering like I was deserved to be shot at and to get hurt a little bit. I was so selfish, so arrogant, and so immature. I was disgusted with myself. If I could have met myself at the time, I would have given myself a punch in the face so hard that I would knock out all of my teeth. They started to call it a series of attacks on school children. The principal of my school held a morning assembly to inform everyone about the case and to warn them to be careful when playing outside. I was laughing sneakily. The PTA issued a letter warning and advice to take the safest way to and from school. Parents took turns watching kids when they walked between home and school in groups. The more serious it got, the more it reminded me of the excitement I first felt when my grades started going up. I was absorbed in that game I was playing. I didn't think I would get caught someday. I didn't even think to stop doing it either. One day, I found a little girl who was walking down a narrow dark street all alone. She was a very small girl. I don't know if she was on her way to her friend's house or if she was running an errand. I didn't care which. It was careless of her to go out alone. The school had warned her not to. So, it was her fault. Just like always, I made a selfish excuse and attacked her. Some of the shots hit her in the back. She noticed she was being attacked by somebody. She turned around. It was a natural reaction. At the time, I didn't hesitate to rain hell upon her. So when she turned around, I was still shooting at her. Usually when I shot at a kid, she cried in pain and ran away. But this girl was different. She thrashed around in excruciating pain, holding one of her eyes. When I saw her doing that, I realized what had happened right away. The BB had hit her right in the eye. Until that moment, I didn't think about what would happen when a pellet that could easily go through a cardboard box hit an eyeball. Anyway, the girl howled in pain, and for the first time, I realized I had done something horrible. She saw me, so I couldn't take her to the hospital. I couldn't do anything about it, so I left her there. Oh my god. So I left her there while she was still screaming in pain. I wondered if she was okay, and I worried that she had lost her eye. I kept thinking about her, and I didn't even feel like eating that day. I went to the bookshelf in the living room, snuck a medical book to my room, and studied the structure of the human eye. It was too late to make a difference, but I studied what kind of injuries would make a person lose their vision. I knew it wouldn't make the sin I committed weigh any less even if I found out that she wouldn't lose her sight. I couldn't sleep that night, and I suffered from a high fever. It wasn't my parents, my teachers, or the police who first punished me for what I did. It was my own body. Before dawn, I woke my parents up and confessed to my sin. They were shocked at first, but it seemed like they understood the situation quickly due to my recent disobedient behavior and my interest in BB guns. My mom cried hysterically. My dad slapped me in the face until it swelled up. Before the sun came up, I turned myself in to the police, accompanied by my parents. Satoko stared at me with a stunned expression. I deserved to receive that kind of look. What I did was very wrong, and I needed to accept that.
それ本当ですの？
ああ、本当だ。今まで隠していて悪かった。
なんでそんなことを今頃になってわざわざ言おうと思ったわけ？
Mion asked me, and Rika-chan nodded in agreement.
本音から言うとさ、ケイちゃんどうしたのって感じかね。
まあ、そりゃそうだよな。
違うよ。そんなことわざわざ言い出す必要あったのかなってね。
いや、隠し事をするなんて。俺はみんなのことを仲間だと思ってる。だからもう隠してなんかいられなかったんだ。
圭一はそれを僕たちに話して何を期待しているのですか？
I mean, my expectation would be that if you guys are hiding any secrets from me, now would be an appropriate time to have heart-to-hearts, you know, since we're having a moment. Or is that just me?
期待なんて別にないよ。俺はただ
許しが欲しくても僕にはあげられないのです。圭一が怪我をさせた人たちにしか。だから僕たちにそれを話しても何の期待にも。リカの言う通りですわね。潔いのは認めますけれど、そんなことを私たちに打ち明けてどうしたいって言うんですの？
どうしたいってことはないよ。ただ仲間に隠し事は。
My friends looked annoyed by the sudden confession of my past. I took it as bitter medicine. I got what I deserved.
ケイちゃんさ、ちょいとここで質問なんだけどさ、仲間に隠し事ってしたらいけないわけ？
え？
ケイちゃんの論法だと隠し事をしないのが仲間みたいな話だけどさ、おじさんはそんなの嫌だね。
僕も嫌です。
Mion and Rika-chan obviously disagreed with my statement. Satoko nodded, following suit.
言いたくないことを言わないで何が悪いわけ？人には話したくないことや辛いこと、悲しいこと、失敗したことや思い出したくないことがたくさんある。それを全部打ち明けないと仲間と呼べないんなら、私はそんな仲間はいらないね。
でもそれじゃあ。
圭一、打ち明けなくていいことと打ち明けなくてはならないことは違いますのです。罪は許しを得るために打ち明けなくてはならない。でも打ち明けて許された罪はもう打ち明ける必要はないのですよ。そうですわね。だって圭一さんはちゃんとおまわりさんのところに行って怒られてきたんでございましょう。それで償いをして許してもらえたなら、それで圭一さんの罪はおしまいですわよ。
自首してその結果を受け入れたなら、それでケイちゃんのお務めは終わりだよ。もちろんケイちゃんが罪の十字架を背負い続けることはとても大切なこと。二度と過ちを繰り返さないよう常に胸に刻み続けるのは正しいことだよ。でもね、それはケイちゃんが自戒することであって打ち明けなくちゃいけないことではない。
そうですわよ。過去の恥ずかしい話なんかは私も内緒にしたいことがたくさんございましたよ。聡子は特にいっぱいいっぱいありますのです。私だけじゃございませんのよ。リカもですわよ。リカもですわよ。みー。
Satoko and Rika-chan fooled around with each other like they always did. Mion looked at them and then looked back at me.
今、聡子はとてもいいことを言ったと思う。ケイちゃんにはどの部分かわかる？
過去の話は内緒にしたいというところか？
違う。その次の部分。誰にだってあるってところだよ。無菌室の試験管の中で育った人間でもない限り、人の人生は試行錯誤の繰り返しだと思う。いいことも悪いこともいろいろなことを繰り返して成長して、それで最後の最後に素晴らしい人間になれればいいんじゃない？いいことも悪いことも 全てとても大切な経験なんだと思う。それは誰でも同じで、ケイちゃんだけじゃない。いやいや、クラスの全員にも当てはまることなんだよ。
例えばミーはもっと昔は札付きの悪猫さんだったのですよ。にゃーにゃ
まあ本当はあんまり言いたかないんだけどね。私から見ればモデルガンで闇討ちなんてかわいいもんだって。私なんかレンガとか投げつけてたよ。いやほんと。
Jesus Christ.
警察に何度お世話になったことやら。ダム戦争の最中はちょっとした留置場常連だったよ。いやいや本当に。
でも昔のことなのですよ。そしてそれを圭一に言う必要はない。仲間であってもなのです。
仲間であっても。
私だってとても言えないような苦い過ちや罪がいくつもあります。でも言わないのは言っても仕方がないからですわ。
He said with a smile.
言って楽になるなら私たちは聞くよ。でもね、仲間だから言わなければならないなんてルールはない。むしろ仲間なら言いたくない過去を察してあえて聞かないのが
それはそうだけど。
ケイちゃんが打ち明けて楽になったならそれでいいよ。私たちは今日の話をすぐにでも忘れる。それに今日の話を聞いたからケイちゃんとの接し方を変えるようなこともない。
圭一が前の町でしたことなんて今の圭一と何の関係もないのです。今の圭一が僕たちにとってかけがえのない仲間であるのなら、前の理科の言う通りで、逆に前の町でどんなに善行を積もうともこちらに来て嫌な人だったなら前の町の善行なんかしたことじゃありませんわね。
ってことはさ、前の町での十字架はケイちゃんが密かに胸に秘めることであって、こっちでわざわざ口にする必要なんてないんじゃない？いや、仮に口にしてもだ。それでケイちゃんの味方を変える程度のやつだったら私はそいつの方を見下げるね。
過去が何だろうと今が素晴らしい人間であるならばどうして恥じることがございますの？もし過去の過ちを一生取り戻せなかったら私たちは何のために生き続けますの？サトクは過去にとても甘えん坊さんでした。それを後悔して今はこんなにも元気で頑張っていますのです。だから僕は今のサトクはとても素晴らしいと思いますです。昔どうだったかなんて僕は興味ないのです。リカ。
ケイちゃんだってどうよ。例えば私が留置場常連の札付きだとしたら私への見方を変える？変えないでしょ。私は私。いつものように楽しくふざけ合える関係は何も変わらないでしょ。それが仲間ってもんだもん。
What? What's going on? Mion is trying to cheer me up with an encouraging smile on her face, but her expression became distorted all of a sudden. Big teardrops fell from my eyes. What? Why? Am I crying?
先に言っとく。俺はサトシのことは何も知らない。みんなが隠してたからな。
隠してたってわけじゃ。
毎年起こる事件のこと隠してたろ。
それはケイちゃんを
怖がらせたくなかったってのか？それが理由で俺だけのけ者かよ。
いや、そんなつもりじゃ。
Mion didn't know what to say. She had tears in her eyes. She thought she did me a favor. She didn't know why it turned out like this. She didn't want to make me scared of the village since I had just moved here. What more reason did she need?
ミオンに直にダム現場で事件がなかったかって聞いたよな。ミオンはないって言ったじゃないか。バラバラ殺人があったのによ。嘘つき野郎。
ごめん、嘘ってわけじゃ。
仲間ってのは隠し事なんかなしだろ。そうだろ。じゃあお前らは仲間じゃない。
What are friends? What are friends? What were friends to me, huh? They were my true friends. They really cared about me. They were so nice to me and helped me feel at home in this village. I couldn't have been happier. Everything was great, wasn't it?
ケイちゃん、そんなのって。
Mion seemed like she didn't know what to say. Her eyes looked moist. It was hard to believe she was really acting like this. It wasn't like Mion at all. I could feel her pain. She was in pain because she didn't know what I was blaming her for. She looked so sad, but I did not notice her pain. I thought I was her friend. I didn't understand her feelings. I didn't trust her. I just used the words friends. But I didn't do anything like that. I just used the word friends, but I didn't do anything like what friends were supposed to do.
そうだった。俺はクズだったんだ。ミオンはミオンだったんだ。俺の最高の仲間だったんじゃないか。どうしてミオンを疑っちまったんだ。どうして。
ケイちゃんさ、最近元気ないよね。
都会から引っ越してきたんだもん。きっと今頃になって疲れが出てきたんだよ。それで風邪をひいたんじゃないかな。
そっかそっか。じゃあ栄養をつけさせてあげないとね。バッチャが今日おはぎを作ってるんだよ。いくつか分けてもらってケイちゃんへのお見舞いにでもしてあげるか。
こんなミオン手を洗んとね。
Oreo was here?
おいやレナちゃん、一つやってるんかい。
へえ、おはぎ作りって面白そうですね。レナも一つだけ作らせてもらおうかな。よいしょ、よいしょ。
I had no idea it was Oreo at the mochi thing.
そうだそうだ。
Unless
いいこと思いついたよ。
Ohagi and mochi are different things.
なにみーちゃん。あ、その小瓶何かな。
甘いおはぎだけじゃ退屈しちゃうだろうからね。うち一つにはクリティカルヒットでタバスコを混ぜておいてあげよう。
That's right. That's what happened. They brought Ohagi for me to help me get better. They only tried to cheer me up. Why did I get so scared of them? Just because Mion knew I had lunch at Angel Mort, I grew terrified of her.
ケイチくん、顔色悪いよ。もう横になった方がいいと思うな。
そうだね。私たちはもう帰ろう。
They just want to cheer me up with a joke. But because I looked so serious...
じゃあね、ケイちゃん。
Please get better soon. I hope we can hang out in the club together tomorrow. That was a normal way of saying goodbye.
明日、学校休んじゃ嫌だよ。
First of all, have I ever visited any of my classmates who were absent with a cold? No, I haven't. I've never done such a nice thing to anybody because it's too much of a bother. But they did that for me. I understand visiting a friend in a hospital, but I just caught a cold. They came to visit me with Ohagi so that I could get better soon. I should have been thankful to them and said, I'll get better soon and I'm sure I can come to school tomorrow. So I'll see you then. That was what I was supposed to say. But what did I do instead? I locked the door. I closed the door and locked it as if rejecting them. What was I so scared of? What was I so afraid of? Why didn't I say any of the words of appreciation to my friends who cared about me? I was just so scared of the Ohagi they brought me. What was I thinking? It was impossible that there was a needle in one of them. There wasn't actually a needle at all. It was all in my head because I had read some manga about someone putting needles or razor blades in people's food. It scared me so much that I believed it could also happen to me for some reason. And I thought there was a needle in the Ohagi. You were so stupid, Keichii. Why would your friends put a needle in food they only brought to make you get better? It was crazy to think like that. Even if there was a needle in one of them, I should have thought it was some kind of mistake and I should have believed in my friend's innocence. That's what a true friend would do. But what did I do? Pound. Splatter. Smash. I threw the ohage that they spent so much effort making on the floor. Doshite? Why did I do that? I got along so well with them. I moved to Hinamizawa and I made friends for the first time in my life. They were my best friends. Meeting them was the most wonderful experience of my life. I would probably never have another one like that for the rest of my days. I knew that, but I got scared and I doubted them. They noticed that I was acting odd. That's why they called the manager Irie. They thought a sedative might help me relax so I could rest and get better. That's why they carried me up to my room. Mion just wants to make it fun. She's the kind of person who expresses her goodwill by making a joke out of it. I knew that better than anybody. She knew that Irie would roll up my shirt to check my heartbeat with a stethoscope. So she was just trying to draw graffiti on my shirt just like she did Tomitake-san as punishment for the game he lost. Yeah, that's why Mion took a felt marker out of her pocket. A felt marker. She brought a marker from home just because she wanted to do something funny. She tried to cheer me up by making me take a punishment for fun rather than nursing me because that's just what Mion is like. She went to the trouble of bringing a felt marker to my house just because she wanted to cheer me up. Rena held me down tightly and Mion came closer to me to write something on my shirt. Mion whispered the words she was going to write on my shirt. I heard them. I heard them clearly. I heard what she was going to write on my shirt. I hope you get well soon, Mion. I heard them, so then why? I should have known she wasn't going to do anything to hurt me. Then why? Why? Why did the marker look like a syringe to me? Why did I think that Mion was going to kill me? It was impossible. It was impossible. Why? Why did I misunderstand that Mion was going to kill me, huh? The numbness in my head receded, and slowly, I felt blood start to run through my entire body again. How long was I squatting down there? For a few minutes? Or a lot longer than that? As I looked at the clock, the hands weren't moving at all, as if they had stopped while I had my eyes closed. Really? The atmosphere in the room wasn't filled with insanity like it was earlier, but it was quiet and gray. Rena wasn't holding me down, and Mion wasn't about to give me an injection. Was all of that just some kind of illusion? There was no sense of presence other than myself in that room. It was an extraordinary experience, the kind I had never had before. I was there with Rena and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but at the same time, I felt some kind of relief too. The scary incident was just an illusion after all. Neither Rena nor Mion would have done such a terrible thing to me. Tears started forming in my eyes. My emotions were running high. Why? It wasn't a question of why tears were forming in my eyes. Why? It was a question of my sadness. Why did I feel so sad? I don't know. I don't know. You don't know? What do you mean you don't know? You do know. I was so stupid. What the fuck was I doing? I was so pathetic and helpless. Mion just tried to cheer me up, man, that's all. I liked her so much. She was my best friend. She was older than me, but she hung out with me like we were the same age. She was the first one who came to talk to me in class. She was so nice to me, but Mion was lying down in an unnatural position near the window. She was covered in dusky red blood from her head to her chest. The red fluid splattered on the wall was Mion's. What had I done? What had I done? I would never forgive myself.
俺みんなのこと本当に友達だと思ってたんだぜ。
Why did all this have to happen? There was nothing fun in my life at my old school. When I talked to anyone, it was only ever about my chances of passing the entrance exam of the schools we wanted to go to. My life was shaded in gray. Friends to me were rivals and enemies to vie with for a school recommendation and test scores, you know? My friends here taught me just how unnatural that was. This whole month was a blast. We raised the roof over lunch, our club activities, and the festival. A warm liquid flowed out from my eyes. To my surprise, it was my tears. I didn't have any obligation to cry for them, but I couldn't stop it. Even though they attempted to kill me, even though they almost killed me, I couldn't forget the memories we made during the past month. Or were those fun days fake? Was it an act that they kept playing perfectly to set me up until today? Was it only me who believed that they were my friends? It couldn't be. Rena and Mion, they were my friends for real. Those happy days? It couldn't have just been a performance. Rena and Mion must have been forced by somebody to kill me. Or that an extraordinary existence called Oyashiro-sama possessed them and took over their consciousness. No matter what it was, both Rena and Mion were my best friends. I was stupid. I was such a fool. Such a fool, such a fool, such a fool. I wasn't making any sense at all. I killed my best friends. They were my best friends. Bro, I get it. Fucking move on, eh? Then why didn't I trust them? Why didn't I listen to them? I beat them to death. Who did I think I was? I made it sound like I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying that he should get over the feeling of what he's feeling. I'm just saying get over the fact that you're like regurgitating sentences over and over again. I felt like everybody went crazy except me. I was such a fool. It was the other way around. Of course it was. I was the only one who went crazy.
ケイちゃん？
俺はなんてことをしてしまったんだよ。なんてこと。
Mion was still alive. I have a memory of beating her to death because I couldn't trust her, but that's a memory from a non-existent different world. But even though it happened in a different world, I killed Mion, and I didn't realize how deep that sin was. I even thought until now that Mion was at fault for being killed.
どうしたんですの、ケイチさん。
I wonder what triggered his memories coming back to that certain event in that arc.
わかんない。ケイちゃん、落ち着いて落ち着いて。私は生きてるよ。ケイちゃんになんか殴り殺されてたまらかっての。
You say that.
ねえ。
そうですわよ。ケイチさんごときに遅れを取るようなのは我が部にはおりませんでしたよ。
違うんだ。違うんだ。
Mion and Satoko looked confused, having no idea why I was crying. But I couldn't help myself. I learned just now that I could earn redemption by confessing my sin. But I could never earn redemption for this, not from Mion. No matter how much I cried in this world, nobody could give me forgiveness. And so, I could never earn redemption for this sin. Right then, Chie-sensei came in and noticed me crying. You wouldn't see a teenage boy crying like that very often. Chie-sensei asked me what was going on, but at that moment, I could not hear anything. Mion and Satoko looked confused. They didn't know how to explain the situation. Rika-chan approached me in the midst of my sobs and patted me on the head probably.
ケイチは覚えているのですか？
That's fucking interesting.
レナとミーを殺したことを。
そうだ。俺が殺したんだ。殺したんだ。なのに俺は何の罪も認めずに、まるで自分は被害者のつもりで死ぬ最後の瞬間まで 仲間を呪って恨んで血がいっぱい出て、そして結局何の後悔もなく一人で勝手に死んだ。
I clawed at my itchy throat in a phone booth. I didn't notice my sin, and I died alone.
ケイチ、あなたの罪に気づきましたのですか？
気づいた。こんなにも今頃になって俺は気づいたよ。思い出したんだ。ここじゃない、別のよく似た世界で俺はなぜか仲間たちに疑心暗鬼を持って殺してしまったんだ。仲間たちは俺に救いの言葉をかけていたはずなんだ。なぜそれに耳を傾けられなかった？どうしてだよ。
I didn't care if people were staring. I just kept crying. I wanted to transmute my sin to tears in order to squeeze it out of me. But the tears that were coming out from my eyes weren't my sin. They were just tears of regret for doing something irreversible. At that time, I felt something touching my head. I opened my eyes and saw Rika-chan patting my head gently. I didn't need any comfort. I didn't deserve any comfort from Rika-chan. But the words she spoke to me weren't ones of comfort.
ケイチを許しましょう。
The fuck are you talking about? It's not your forgiveness to give, I thought.
ケイチは自分で自分の罪に気づきましたのです。それはとても偉くて普通ではありえないことなのです。だから誰もケイチの偉さがわからなくてそれを許してあげることはできませんのです。でも僕にはケイチの凄さがわかるのです。
リカちゃん。
私はだってこれはありえないことなのだもの。あなたが別の自分の罪に気づくなんて
Another world,
絶対にあり
eh?
えないこと。なのにそれはきっとこの地上に具現するどんな奇跡すらも霞むほどのもので信じられないくらいに尊いもの。
Tell me more about these other worlds. I didn't understand anything Rika-chan was saying, but I felt like she's the only one who understood that impossible memory I had.
なら今のあなたにならわかる。リュウグウレナがどういうことになっているのか。
ああ、わかるぜ。あの時の俺と同じなんだ。仲間のことを信じたくて信じられないんだ。どんどん自分がおかしくなっていくのにそいつがわからなくて世界の方がおかしくなったって信じてやがるんだ。どうすりゃ救えるかなんてわからねえよ。わからないんだ。だって俺はダメだった。結局死ぬまで、いや死んでも気づけなかったんだ。それをレナに気づかせるなんてどうやって。救えないよ、救えない。俺がそうだったからよくわかるんだ。どうやったってもう救えないんだ。
Calm down, Keichii. I did fail, but that doesn't mean Rena would too. There was no excuse not to save her because I thought she would fail. After all, what did Rena do back then? I was totally going mad, but she risked her life to save me. In my room, in that world, I had beaten her many times with a metal bat. But she was smiling. She knew I was scared, and that's why she smiled for me. I beat her so many times, her arms were broken, and her forehead was cut open. I remembered, Rena didn't block her head. Even at the very last moment, she opened her arms towards me like she was looking for a hug. But I still doubted her, and raised the metal bat high up. Rena told me then that it was okay.
私を信じて。
My friend still told me to believe in her. She told me to trust her, but I still didn't. I lost it and attacked her. She was in danger. She was actually killed. But she didn't even block her head. Instead, she used her arms to reach out for me. Rena continued to say those words until the moment she died. Trust me. Please, trust me. She risked her life to save me. Until her very last moments, she kept telling me to believe in her. But I didn't listen. For so long, I truly believed that I didn't do anything wrong.
リカちゃんに許してもらえて少し心が軽くなった。でもやっぱり俺の罪はレナの目は俺が覚ます。
Rena risked her life to save me. She cared about me until her very last moments. She trusted me. She believed that her words would reach my heart, so she kept saying them until I cracked her skull. I don't care if I die. Rena died for me. I can die for her too. I was such a fool for failing to understand my friend's feelings. That's why I didn't understand what she was saying. But Rena might be different.
この世界はもうおかしくなっちまった。でもだからといって諦めていいなんてことはねえんだよ。諦めるってことは信じないってことだ。俺はレナを仲間の絆を信じるぜ。だからまだ間に合うんだ。惨劇は回避できる。運命には抗える。俺たちはあがく。そして掴めるんだ。
Rika-chan nodded with a serious look on her face, and she put her hand in the pocket of her skirt.
ケイチ、私も諦めない。
Keep fighting, eh?
この世界から希望を失ってたまるものか。私は数えきれない失敗に疲れ果ててた。だから世界がおかしくなることに。だからもうレナがどうなろうと知ったことではないと。でも戦おうとする意志がこんなにも美しく神々しくて、そして運命すらねじ曲げかねない奇跡が起こせることを知った。だから私はもう一度戦おう。何度でも戦おう。その先の未来に至れるまで。
リカとケイチさんが何の話をしてるのかさっぱりわかりませんでしたよ。
Oh, you were listening on, eh?
覚えていないのは当然なのです。ケイチがすごいだけなのですよ。
私の高尚な脳みそではさっぱりでしたよ。
Rika-chan touched Satoko's forehead to hers.
でもいつかは思い出してあげてください。あなたが抗えぬ不幸の袋小路にとらわれた時。
ケイチさんがですの？眉唾でございますわよ。
ね、ケイチ。
Rika-chan looked at me, smiling as if waiting for my agreement. I wasn't sure if I could risk my life for Satoko. No, I was sure I would risk my life for her. Satoko is my friend. If anybody tried to make her unhappy, I would beat them up without hesitation. I would risk my life to save her. There might even have been a world like that. I nodded to Rika-chan. Rika-chan nodded back to me, looking happy.
前原くん、何かありましたか？
Wait, Ma, did you hear everything that Rika-chan said? Chie-sensei realized that I had finally calmed down, and she asked me that.
いえ、なんでもないんです。騒がせてすみませんでした。それよりミオ。
何？
I walked towards her. Mion stepped back, not knowing what was going on. She bumped into the blackboard.
何ケイちゃん、マジな顔でどうしたの？
I held Mion tightly. She still didn't know what was going on, and her face turned red. Crying on her shoulder, I told her the following.
すまなかった。本当にすまなかった。
何がよ、ケイちゃん。おじさん、本当に何のことかわかんないよ。
わかんなくてもいい。わかんなくてもいい。わかんなくてもいいから。本当にすまなかった。そして、おはぎ。
Fairly certain it was mochi, unless it's the same thing.
うまかったぜ。本当にうまかった。元気が出た。だから、俺、明日からちゃんと学校に通えるから、また明日も、学校で会おうなって、それが、言えなくて。
Maybe this triggers something in Mion as well.
今日まで、感謝の言葉が遅れて、本当にすまなかった。俺はミオンを、いや、仲間を誰だろうと、二度と疑わない。二度とだ。絶対にだ。だから、ミオン、あの日の俺を、どうか許してくれ。
Mion must have had no idea what I was talking about. Of course, I didn't either. I didn't understand what I was talking about. But my sin wasn't forgiven yet. I needed to confess my sin in order to receive her forgiveness.
ミオンが命を懸けてくれたことを。だから、いつかミオンに何かの不幸が訪れたら、絶対だ。
ケイちゃん照れるな。
That was a very important scene. Mion's face was bright red. She didn't know what was going on. Satoko was blushing too, with a confused look on her face. But Rika-chan and I understood everything. We weren't going to accept the tragedy. We couldn't give up just because the world was going out of order. We were going to fight against fate to the very last moment. So, does the series take a turn now where Rika-chan and Keichii are in full agreement of what's going on, they're acknowledging everything, and we're gonna spend the rest of our time trying to make Rena realize the same thing as well? And starting from the next arc, we're going to try to make Satoko, Mion, and everybody else understand what's going on, and maybe even prevent Tomitake-kun's and Mio-san's deaths. Maybe. Mion fought for me. Rena fought for me. That's why I was going to fight for Rena. Just like she did for me, I was going to risk my life to save her. The summit was being held at a traditional Japanese restaurant in Shishibone City. When a black car stopped in front of it, 3 burly cops got out of it, followed by Oishi. They were welcomed by Sonozaki Corps members in equally black suits. It was something you didn't see every day.
今日はお招きいただきまして光栄。遅刻しちゃって申し訳ないですね。
お客人、ご案内いたします。どうぞこちらへ。
There was a sign saying reserved at the entrance. Oishi and his subordinates were taken inside. They walked through the restaurant's pretentious landscape garden, and they came to the gorgeous Japanese-style entrance. A woman in a kimono was waiting at the entrance, as was Kasai. Upon seeing the police officers, they stopped chatting and bowed deeply. The woman in the kimono was Mion's mother, Akane.
いやどうもどうも園崎社長さん。本日はお招きをいただきありがとうございます。
ようこそいらっしゃいました。ご多忙中のはるばるのお越し、心よりか。
いえいえ、今日はごちそうになりますよ。ここの料亭は湯葉が有名ですからね。などんなごちそうか楽しみです。それから葛西さんもお久しぶり。直接会うのはだいぶ久しぶりになりますね。
ご無沙汰をいたしております。
まあなんかこの度はお互い戦争状態に突入しちゃってるようですが、こっちゃ全面戦争はいつでも大丈夫ですんで。
いえ、そのようなつもりは毛頭。
そりゃこちらもやりたかはないです。あんたが粘ると血の雨が降るって評判ですからね。私もいい年なんで、もう流血沙汰はごめんしたいところです。
Obviously, this was a meeting between people who hated each other. The tension in their words indicated that it wasn't likely to be a friendly meeting.
それではご案内いたします。どうぞこちらへ。
主催自らのご案内、痛み入りますよ。
そうそう。招待状の名前は私で出させていただきましたが、今日の主催は本家で訳あって招待状の名前を変えさせていただいたことをお詫びいたします。
本家。防弾チョッキを着に戻ってもいいですかね。ね。
On the other side of the door, there were several tables, and Mion was sitting at one of them. Since Mion was still young, her school uniform functioned as her formal dress. Still, it looked strange with both the police and the corps members in black suits.
これはどうも、園崎家の次期当主のお嬢さん。今日はお招きくださり光栄です。
本日はようこそお越しくださいました。まずはおかけになってください。
Mion politely welcomed the police, undaunted even though they were older than her parents. Mion gave Kasai a look and he tapped on the door. The waitresses who had been waiting behind the door started bringing out drinks.
おいさん、一体これは何のつもりっすかね。
さてね、まあ、ここは舌鼓を打たせてもらいましょう。ここの湯葉は有名ですよ。
They started drinking, but the tension continued for a while. Mion made the waitresses and the other members of the Sonozaki Corps leave the room, and soon only Oishi and his subordinates, Mion, Akane, and Kasai were left in the room.
さて、今日はどういうお話ですかな？
Akane nodded and began speaking.
本日は皆さんとの間に生じている誤解について解かせていただきたく、この発端はとてもさまつでございます。ここにいる葛西が竜宮レナとの個人的事情により会見を求めたのです。よってこの度の件は葛西達義と竜宮レナ個人間のこと。園崎組は関与しておりません。
個人的事情って何ですかね。片木の竜宮さんと極道の葛西さんにどういう個人的な接点が生じるっていうんです？
葛西。
はい、僭越ながらご説明させていただきます。
Kasai told the police officer that he happened to meet Rena at a coffee house in Okinomiya. He explained that Rena found something he lost there and that she offered to bring it back to him.
ちょいと無理がございませんかね。まあ100歩譲って落とし物の話を信じてもいいですよ。その後がちょいとおかしくないですかね。竜宮レナを探して組の若い連中が動員されてるって聞いてますよ。
それに関しましてはこの私めの手落ちでございます。竜宮レナさんが遅くになっても帰宅されないのを家人が心配されていたので、繁華街で見かけていることがないかどうか若い者に聞かせたのですが、その際に
おうおうおう、こんな割烹まで呼び出してそのヨタ話を信じろっての？あんたうちらの商売をなめてんの？ん
Oishi looked a lot more like a member of the Yakuza than the real Yakuza did. Oishi threatened them with a nasty smile, and it piled all the more tension onto the atmosphere in the room.
おいさん、まあまあ。
Kumagai tried to make him stand down. Officers with hot tempers pair with others who are good at calming them down, just like how Yakuza do. Oishi backed off with a grin. Kumagai took over, continuing from there.
それで園崎家さんはどうおっしゃりたいわけですか？竜宮レナと葛西達義の個人的問題だから民事に介入するなとおっしゃりたいわけで、そういうわけにはいきません。竜宮レナは警察で保護させていただきます。
I don't think that was his end goal, but let's see. Mion opened her mouth for the first time in a while.
警察は竜宮レナを保護なさる理由をお聞かせください。
そりゃ決まってるじゃないかよ。あんたらが狙ってるからだよ。
Oishi answered bluntly, but Mion remained nonchalant. That must have made him all the more annoyed.
どうして東方が竜宮レナを狙っているとお思いで？
そりゃあんたの胸に聞きゃいいだろう。ご自分のその胸に。
What? The demon in her chest? Is that what you're trying to go at?
おいさん。
Is that what you're trying to get at?
本日は皆さんの誤解を解くための会合です。
Not add more.
もちろん耳を貸されないのもまたご自由かとは存じますが。
ほう。我々が何の誤解をしていると？
竜宮レナの持っている高野美代のスクラップ帳についてある重大な誤解をされております。
The officer's expressions grew stern all at once. All of a sudden, she had gotten straight to the point.
竜宮レナの保護は彼女が高野美代のスクラップ帳を持っているからなので。
Oishi and his subordinates glared back at her without saying a word, making it obvious that her guess was right.
葛西
Akane gave him a look and he left the room. However, he shortly returned, carrying a black suitcase. Every one of the officers assumed that there was a tremendous amount of money in the suitcase and that the Sonozaki family was trying to buy them off, but it was actually the scrapbooks. Kasai opened the suitcase and showed the contents to the police.
これは
Could they have been tampered with?
高野美代のスクラップ帳です。残念ながら竜宮レナに手渡したと思われるものは含まれておりません。これを本日の魚にいたそうかと思います。
中身を拝見させていただいても構いません。
ええ、どうぞ。お話はそれを読んでいただいた後で構いません。必要でしたら人払いもさせましょう。
いえ、それには及びません。
The cops produced latex gloves from their pockets, put them on, and took one of the scrapbooks out of the suitcase. There were more than 10 of them in there.
それらは高野美代の死亡の際に沖宮の自宅から発見したものです。
How did you get in? Oishi and the others desperately turned the pages of the well-thumbed scrapbooks.
間違いありません。
I'm sorry, he asked if they are sure that these were real. I kind of zoomed past it.
おいさん、もしこれらに類するものを竜宮レナが持っているとするなら、
おそらくは竜宮レナが持つスクラップ帳もそれらに類する内容でしょう。
Oishi looked stunned by the contents of the scrapbooks. He started turning the pages faster, then closed the scrapbook roughly.
ここにあるスクラップ帳、全部がこんな中身なんですか？
I don't know, I haven't checked yours yet.
ええ、そうですよ。納得ゆくまでご覧ください。
The other officers also rapidly turned through the pages. They weren't reading them, just flipping through. They took one scrapbook from the suitcase after another and flipped through their pages roughly.
おいさん、こんなのめちゃくちゃです。たちの悪いオカルト小説ですよ。冥界と現世が激突して霊魂が流入した。これを証拠として採用しろって言うんすか？
ああ、そっちは冥界の仕業なんだ。俺のは地底人の仕業って書いてあるよ。
She was into some Lovecraftian shit, bro. It's cool. I would read that. This one's about classified weapons of the Nazis. This one's about the legacy of the Mu continent. This one's about the Asi. This one is about Ossie, the mysterious creature in Onigafuchi swamp.
おそらく竜宮レナが持つスクラップ帳には皆さんもよくご存知の寄生虫説が記されているのだろうと察します。
The police were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The other officers were shooting glances at Oishi. They hadn't said anything to him, but they never really believed in the story of the parasite, let alone the bioterrorism. But Oishi had believed it and told them that he had proof. None of the scrapbooks in front of them said anything about parasites, but it was easy to assume that the contents of one scrapbook were no different in nature from another. In other words, all of them were just crappy occult novels. Oishi appeared to be unable to accept the fact that was facing him. But now that he was actually looking at it, it was too difficult to ignore. Mio Takano was an occult geek who had laughable ideas about the legend of Onigafuchi. But Rena took them seriously, and so had Oishi. The other officers could no longer stop themselves from laughing at the ridiculous scrapbooks. Oishi glared at them, and they stopped laughing. The main reason Oishi took the story of the parasite seriously was because the Sonozaki family was apparently after Rena Ryugu for the scrapbook she had. Plus, Takano, the owner of the scrapbooks, was killed. Because of these two reasons, he believed in that occult B novel. Oishi was frustrated without a doubt. He has to accept that he was wrong. Oishi was eager for any information that could help him solve the series of mysterious deaths of Hinamizawa before he retired. I mean, okay, so this does not put Takano-san in a great light, right? But it does not invalidate any research that does not concern these novels. I mean, these novels could be a side thing for all we know, right? Maybe she had dreams of becoming an author, like fantasy novels, but the research that she made, you can't really make the connection just like that. You can't dismiss that part of the research that you have not even reviewed yet based on the novels that she was writing, is what I'm trying to say. A combination of a number of factors made Takano's ridiculous theory become highly creditable to him.
いくつかお聞きしたい。高野美代はどうして？
高野美代についても富武二郎についても当家では
そりゃそう言うだろうな。自分のことを嘘つきという嘘つきがこの世にいるわけはない。
あらあら大石さん、当家で始末したなら死体が出るとお思いで。
Mion wore a cold smile. She had said too much. Akane cleared her throat as if to condemn the statement, and that made Mion shut her mouth. Oishi glared at the young successor, but he knew she was right.
じゃあ、竜宮レナをなんで追ってるんだよ。
'Cause she's my friend.
初めから追っていないと申し上げております。確かにそう見えてしまう誤解が生じたことはこちらのミスです。その点につきましては私よりお詫びさせていただきます。
The reasons which made Oishi take Rena's delusion seriously collapsed one by one. Mion and Akane looked at each other. They must have decided to let Akane speak, and she did so firmly.
当家からのお願いを申し上げさせていただきます。当家ではこのような世まいごとの内容に踊らされて警察と事を交えるのは望むところではありません。伝え聞くところでは県警防対本部の三海氏が公安部と調整をされていると聞いております。何かのさまつな口実をきっかけに当家に関連するすべてに対し一斉捜査を入れられるおつもりとか。
That had been at Oishi's request. Oishi took Rena's story seriously, and he wanted to find a research facility that was developing the parasite. He was intending to use it as a proof of the potential bioterrorist attack. But as he had no idea of where to start looking, he tried to conduct simultaneous raids on all of the facilities the Sonozaki family owned in the entire prefecture, in cooperation with the Task Force for Gang Groups and Public Safety. Normally, the circumstantial evidence he had wouldn't be enough to get their cooperation. In fact, Public Safety doubted Oishi's source because they hadn't heard of any potential terrorist attacks. They trusted their information network. But Oishi took advantage of his long career and his old friends, and he managed to get them to cooperate. Oishi's face broke out in a nervous sweat. Needless to say, he realized he was completely wrong.
当家もダム戦争の当時はいろいろとご迷惑をおかけいたしましたが、すでに昭和も60年代を前にし、時代の移り変わりを感じております。そんな中、当家もまた弱きを助け、強きをくじく任教団体でありながらも、時代に即した平和的な路線を模索しているところです。そんな中、警察の一斉捜査を頂戴しては、手前どもの面目が丸つぶれでございます。
あんたんとこの面目なんて知ったことじゃないよ。
Ouch.
叩きゃ誇りは出るんだ。一斉捜査は決行しますよ。
誇りが出れば結構ではございますが、出なかった場合、いくら大石さんといえど、決して軽んじれない責任問題に発展するかと存じますが。
上等だよ。牛と全面戦争するか。
それをお望みでしたら、どうかお気が済むようお仕事をなされてくださいませ。当家はいつでも受けて立ちますので。
Akana Sonozaki did not betray Oishi's expectations. Although her right to become the successor was taken away, Akana had been through a lot more than Mion. Oishi couldn't back out now. But he knew it was a fight he probably couldn't win. Kumagai butted in and tried to calm him down.
一斉捜査を控えることに対する見返りは？
Mion answered this time.
双方の友好の証として、そのスクラップ帳を皆さんに献上いたします。そのスクラップ帳があれば、まだ高野美代を出しに、矛先を引っ込めることもできましょう。
These scrapbooks proved how ridiculous Mio Takano's theory was. Takano was dead anyway. Oishi could show people these scrapbooks and say he was fooled. He could still pretend the whole raid thing never happened. He might have to take responsibility for it, but if he didn't back off now, there would be no doubt he would face a hopeless mess. If he was going to back off, it was now or never. The administrative staff at his station weren't exactly fond of him. If he made such a huge mistake right before his retirement, people who had been looking for a chance for revenge would cut his pension with glee. His pension was decided by multiplying his base salary by a certain number. If they cut his base salary, there was no way he could avoid a big reduction.
おいさん。
He decided to back off. It was hard for him to admit his mistakes at his age. He grimaced with anger.
あとはクマちゃんに任すわ。ちょっと飲みすぎちゃったみたいです。私はちょいと縁側で夜風に当たってきます。失礼。
Oisha stood up quickly and left the room, making for a lot of noise as he walked. Kasai closed the door Oishi left open. The room was filled with silence again. At that point, Kumagai opened his mouth.
園崎家さんの言い分は了解いたしました。警察としても一斉捜査が及ぼす各業界への影響は本意ではなく、よって市内の平穏を維持するため、今後とも警察と園崎家で連携していくことを確認したいと思います。よってこの度の一斉捜査は見送らせていただきます。
ありがとうございます。園崎家当主お寮に代わりまして、
約束に従いこのスクラップ帳は警察でお預かりします。それから条件が2つ。
賜ります。
1点目はこの場にないスクラップ帳を園崎家が入手した場合、速やかに警察に提出すること。2点目は竜宮レナの身柄を確保した場合、速やかにその身柄を警察に引き渡すこと。
2点目は認められません。竜宮レナは妄想に取りつかれた一少女に過ぎません。当家で速やかに身柄を確保した上で、しるべき治療を受けられる医療機関を手配します。これは当人の権利でもあります。
その点につきましては当方も主張を引けません。当方には高野殺しを含めて竜宮レナに尋問する権利があります。重要参考人としてです。容疑者としてではありません。
Akane whispered to Mion. Mion in turn nodded and began to speak.
わかりました。2点目の条件を了承します。ただし、当方からも条件を追加します。竜宮レナの権利保全のため、竜宮レナへの尋問はすべて弁護士立ち会いの下で行うこと。
了解しました。ただし一点確認を。園崎家からの弁護士が意図的に派遣されないことによる妨害は認めません。
Fair.
警察は竜宮レナの身柄を確保した後、直ちに尋問を開始します。
当家も問題ありません。ただし竜宮レナの身柄確保時には直ちに当家へ連絡をすること。
可能な限り早く連絡するようにいたします。
Akane cut in.
尋問をあらかた終えてから電話されても困ります。身柄を確保した時点でご連絡をお願いします。ここいらは互いを信頼した上での善意の取り決めでございます。どうか保護にされることがないようよろしくお願い申し上げます。
わかりました。双方による善意の取り決めです。遵守に誠心誠意努力いたします。
Akane and Kumagai glared at each other for a moment. Surprisingly, Kumagai was very calm. He was always in the shadow of Oishi, who was loud and noisy, but he had as much guts as his superior did. Oishi was good at taking care of matters in a rough and threatening kind of way, but Kumagai was good at negotiations like this. The meeting ended and the police stood up from their seats. The tension in the room had finally ceased. Kasai put the scrapbooks back in the suitcase and handed it to Kumagai. Kumagai looked at Kasai, nodded lightly, and took what was offered to him.
イタリー製の最高級カバンです。
But you want it back?
今日のお土産に含まれますので。
いえ、お約束ではスクラップ帳のみをお預かりすることになっております。
The suitcase counts as bribery, ma'am. We can't
カ
do
バン
this.
は後日、園崎組事務所へお返しに伺わせていただきます。それでは失礼します。園崎家当主お涼さんにもどうかよろしくお伝えください。
The officers left after bowing to Mion. After making sure that the police had left the hallway, Mion sighed heavily and finally let go of her tension. She spread her feet on the floor, flapping the rim of her skirt.
いやー、肩が凝っちゃったよ。お母さんがやってくれればよかったのに。
バカだね。あんたの方が肩書きが上なんだよ。こういうのは年じゃなくて肩書きなの。葛西、中井に行ってビールでも持ってこさせて。あと外の若いのも呼び入れて何か冷たいのを振る舞ってやりな。
ビールだけでよろしいですか？
ああ、この子はダメ。オレンジジュースでも頼みな。
子供扱いして。肩書きが上でも全然大人扱いしてもらってないよ。
いくつになってもでっかい子供だよ、あんたは。それはそうと、今回の一件、お父さんがだいぶ手回ししてくれてるんだよ。よーく感謝しときな。葛西もね、あんたも片木と会うときはもうちょい気を利かせな。
みっともない限りです。
しかしさ、あの大石をコケにするとはレナちゃんもやるじゃん。あんたの友達はつくづく大物が多いね。今度ぜひ母さんにも紹介してよ。お芝居でも一緒に見に行きたいね。葛西、今度レナちゃんに会ったらぜひそう伝えておいてよ。その時また物騒な話を吹き込むんじゃないよ。
もちろんわかってます、姉さん。
With that, they successfully dispelled the magical power of Takano's scrapbooks. The whole mess shouldn't grow any larger. The only remaining problem was Rena. Where could she be hiding? Before I went to bed, I headed to my window to close the curtain. I saw the shadow of a person near the porch. Who could it be so late? Well, I didn't have to guess who it was. There was only one person I knew who might come see me so late. I opened the window and looked more carefully this time. I was right. It was Rena. She was just standing still under the light. I wondered how long she had been there for. It didn't look like she was going to ring the doorbell. She was just standing there. She seemed to be asking herself whether to ring the doorbell or not. For how long had she been hesitating in front of my door? It looked like even standing was giving her a hard time. She looked very tired. I ran down the stairs, put my sandals on, and rushed out of the house. Rena looked surprised to see me, even though I came out after making a lot of noise. Rena! She looked relieved to see me for a moment, but then she had soon glanced downward and looked sad again.
お前、いつからここに突っ立ってたんだよ。
わかんない。夕方、ちょっと過ぎくらいからだったと思う。
Rena must have been staying somewhere outside for the last 2 days at the very least. And it wasn't like she had been camping for fun. She had been in a state of high tension the whole time, believing that someone was trying to kill her. Rena looked utterly exhausted. She seemed to have taken care of the deep scratch she made on her neck the other day with some large band-aids. What? The band-aids had cute pictures, but that only made the wound on her neck look more painful. I saw some band-aids soaked with blood on her arms and body too, and I could tell she made them herself. She had more scars than she had last night.
とにかく、中に入ろう。この2日間、ろくなものを食べてないんだろ。
When I tried to take her in the house, she refused with a vague expression on her face. It wasn't that she didn't want to go into the house, it was more like she had to refuse because she thought she didn't deserve it.
もうね、ダメなの。今のこの瞬間も、私の全身の中で変なのがざわざわ騒いで、かゆくて、かゆくて、溢れ出しそうなの。
なあ、レナ。多分それは何かの病気なんだ。とりあえず今夜は俺の家で休んで、明日の朝一番で監督の診療所へ行ってみないか。監督ならレナの微妙な立場を分かってくれるから、誰にも内緒で診察してくれるよ。
自分でもわかるんだよ。富武さんがどういう最後を遂げたか。私は必死にそれを我慢しているだけ。
Rena believed she was given some kind of suspicious drug that made her claw at her neck to death just like Tomitake-san did. She had convinced herself that it was going to happen. She wouldn't hear anything else right now. But she really wanted somebody to help her. She wanted to help, but when someone tried to give her a hand, it looked like the hand of the devil. If this was some kind of disease, what a horrible, depressing disease it was.
私ね、どういう最後になるかわからないけど。
そんなことねえさ。無敵の部活メンバーリュウグウレナがそんな程度でくたばるかよ。
ありがとう。それでね、私死んじゃう前に圭一君にどうしても謝りたかったの。
謝る？何をだよ。
私昨日すごくいけないことを言って圭一君を傷つけた。
She must be talking about last night. Yeah, that's what she said, motherfucker. She trusted me. But when Oishi-san told her about my past, she felt betrayed. And after that, everything I did out of goodwill seemed like the opposite to her. I know what it's like. I once felt the same way about you, Rena.
私もね、昔引っ越してくる前、とても悪いことをしていた。いっぱい。
そうか。そうなんだ。
ケイチ君みたいに、おもちゃの鉄砲で撃つのなんかと比べ物にならないよ。
Probably blinded a person though.
金属バットで、頭が割れちゃうくらいに殴った。みんな大怪我だった。他にもね、学校のガラスとかいっぱい割って歩いたり、それからね。
I know. But I don't care about any of that. You did that before you moved here. That's why you stopped being Reina Ryugu and became Rena after you moved here, right? To me, you're my best friend who's very kind, thoughtful, and fun. That's the most important thing. I don't care who you were before.
ね、私ももっともっといっぱい悪い。ケイチ君のこと仲間じゃないなんていう資格。
それは。
うん。
俺も最初レナの過去のことを聞いて恐れた。
そっか、知ってたんだ。
Rena laughed sadly. She seemed shocked to find out that I knew about her history when she thought I didn't.
でもだからなんだよって思ったぜ。
え？
引っ越してくる前にレナがどんな大悪党だとしたって、それでレナはいろいろと泣いたり笑ったりしながら人生を積み重ねてきて、それでひなみ沢に引っ越してきて誰にも恥じなくていい生活をしてるじゃねえかよ。前の町で悪いことがあったとしたって、その結果竜宮レナってやつが尊敬できる人間に成長できたならどうでもいいことだったんだよ。
I should have noticed it earlier. Rena is Rena. That's why she's Rena Ryugu. I couldn't understand that simple thing when she said she wasn't Reina.
レナも聞いたろ。俺も悪いやつだった。バカだったんだ。なんてバカなことをしたんだと後悔した。だから引っ越しは人生をもう一度やり直すいい機会だと思ったんだ。だから俺はHinamizawaでは自分で自分が好きになれる前原圭一だったと思ってる。それはレナもなんだろ。茨城でどういう生活だったかなんて関係ない。Hinamizawaにいる竜宮レナが大事なんだ。だから竜宮レイナが何者だろうと俺には全然関係ないことだったんだ。
うん、そうだよね。
新しい自分をやり直せる機会は何回あったっていいんだ。そんな機会があるから俺たちは何回も失敗しながら傷つきながら人生に一度や二度のつまずきなんてつきものなんだ。だからそんなのにへこたれないで俺たちはどんどん成長していかなくちゃいけないんだ。だからそんなたくましい人の膝に残るかさぶたを見ておぞましく思うなんて最低のことだったんだよ。
When you go through a lot of pain, you can be kinder to others. So I don't need to know your past, and even if I knew, it shouldn't have changed the way I treated you. But we were fools. We couldn't understand that until we went through things like this ourselves. Mion knew that from the beginning. We were such fools. We hurt each other, and we made each other cry.
だから竜宮レナはこれまでも今もそしてこれからもレナが辛い時きっと俺が助けるから俺を信じてくれ。
ありがとう。ケイチ君を信じるよ。
It's very tragic, but what she said is not true. She probably didn't mean to lie, but I knew she didn't trust me from the bottom of her heart. My words didn't reach her. I knew that because Rena kept telling me to trust her that time. She kept saying those words, while I kept hitting her with the bat, but they still didn't reach me.
私ね、もう多分長くない命だと思うけど、こんな素敵なケイチ君がいるHinamizawaを救うために頑張るよ。
No, Rena.
奴らなんかにこの村を乗っ取らせない。 みんなで楽しく過ごしていた日々を取り戻すために奴らの陰謀を必ずやっつけてみせるから。
She said that she trusted me, but she didn't understand anything I was saying. Even if I kept telling her that the conspiracy was Takano-san's delusion, it wouldn't reach her.
ありがとう、ケイチ君。レナを許してくれて。
I do. I forgive you. So please forgive me for what I did to you.
きっとHinamizawaを救う。だからケイチ君、力を貸して。ケイチ君だけは信じられる。ケイチ君となら救えると思ってる。
レナ
I knew how bad of a corner Rena was driven into. If I was her, I would be walking around with a baseball bat, thinking every single person around me was my enemy. Rena cared about me so much, but I saw her as my worst enemy. But Rena, you still trust me, even though you're driven into this bad of a corner. I couldn't understand what you were saying. I beat you to death while you kept telling me to trust you. But you're different. You still trust me? You are so...
どうして泣いてるの？
許してくれ。許してくれ。俺はもう絶対にレナを裏切らレナのことを信じるから。だから許してくれ。
何のことを言ってるのかよくわかんない。ケイチ君はいつもレナのことを信じてくれてるよ。だからレナも信じていいんだよね。ケイチ君だけはレナを信じてくれるんだよね。
Tears fell from my eyes. I sobbed and nodded again and again to answer her. Tears welled up in Rena's eyes too. Before I knew it, we were putting our foreheads together with tears in our eyes.
私ね、この戦いを終わらせる方法を見つけたの。
Do tell.
本当か？
うん、勝ち目のほとんどない方法だけど、私にできる一番の抵抗だと思う。
レナ、それがどんな方法かは知らないけど、それが終わった後、俺たちはみんなでまた楽しかった元の日々に戻れるんだよな。戻れるんだよな。そうじゃなくちゃいい。俺はお前をこの場から行かせない。
大丈夫だよ、ケイチ君。元の幸せな日々に戻るための起死回生、逆転の最後の一手なんだから。
I don't know what she had on her mind. It began with a delusion and it would end with a delusion. If I encouraged her too much, she would twist it into an attack on her. I was like that at the time. I took Rena's goodwill as the complete opposite thing, so I stopped denying her story. This was Rena's battle. It was her lonely battle. She had to fight against her own delusion. The more we tried to help her, the more we drove her into a corner. But I would always be there for her. Whenever she needed help, she could reach me. I wanted to let her know that, so I just said one little thing.
俺は最後の瞬間まで絶対にレナの味方だからな。
Even if I told her to trust me, I knew she couldn't right now. I knew that, but I told her those words anyway. Even if she couldn't believe them, and if she tried to smash my head in, I would say those words. I would keep saying them until I die.
ありがとう、ケイチ君。明日でね。きっと全部終わるの。きっと私たちは勝つよ。そしたらまたみんなで楽しく部活をしよう。みんなで私たちが一番楽しかった時を取り戻そう。
Although she wished to regain our happy times so badly, I couldn't get rid of the darkness that controlled her mind.
じゃあ私はこれで行くね。明日の準備があるから。
To tell the truth, I didn't want to let her go. I wanted to stop her even if I had to grab her arm. But I couldn't stop her like that. If I grabbed her arm, she wouldn't trust me anymore.
待てよ、レナ。 明日の準備って。
You'll see.
内緒。圭一君に協力してもらうこともあるかもしれないけど。
ああ、当然だぜ。
I nodded strongly so she could tell I was still on her side. But I didn't know what her come from behind victory meant at this point. The first thing I could think of is that she was going to invade the house of the Sonozaki family, which she thought was her enemy. So I called Mion to warn her after Rena left. Mion laughed bitterly and said, "Why does everybody want us to be the bad guy so much?" But she understood the situation.
いっそ悪役に徹しさせてもらってもいいよ。レナが妙なことをしでかす前に踏んじばって病院に担ぎ込むのもいいかもしれない。
本当に最後の最後まで言ったらそれも仕方ないかもな。でもレナを信じたいんだ。最後のギリギリまで。あいつはこんなに心が追い詰められても俺をまだ信じるだけの心の強さがあるんだ。俺とは違う。だからきっとレナは妄想に打ち勝てるはずなんだ。
最近ケイちゃんとリカちゃんが何を言ってるのかおじさんちょっと分かりかねるんだよな。なんか最近ヘビーなことでもあったわけ？
You can see it happened lately in a way. I killed Mion a couple of days after the festival.
悪いな。意味のわかんない話ばっかりしちゃって。それよりレナのこと見損なったりしないでくれ。な。
そんなわけないよ。誰だってたまには心が風邪をひく時があるって。レナのこれもその程度のこと。まあちょいと熱は高いみたいだけど、すっきりケロッと治ってすぐに笑い話になっちゃうって。ケイちゃんが思ってるほど事態は悪くなってないよ。大石の大バカ野郎は自分の誤解を認めた。例の件は発生自体にも気づいてない。だからこのままレナの空騒ぎでしたってことで決着できる。
空騒ぎで決着できそうなのか？
そういうことで決着させんのがその崎本家次期当主のミヨン様の手腕じゃないの。某料亭でね、大石とおじさんが1対1で対談してちゃんと誤解を解いてきたわけよ。大石はタジタジ。いやー、おじさんもなかなかやるね。
Mion bragged about her achievement, laughing loudly. I could tell she was exaggerating a little. Anyway, compared to the sense of impending doom Rena seems to be feeling, the others seem to be taking it rather easy. It was all up to Rena now. If she understood everything, she could go back to the peaceful world she wished for. We were waiting for her to reach out to us. Just like we did by the abandoned car at the garbage dump that day. Rena, I couldn't win, but I know you can, because you're the one who told me to have faith until the end. So I know you can win. That didn't mean she could literally win the last battle she was talking about earlier. But Rena would win. She would win, and she would regain her peaceful life. Last night, eh? Let's see what you got. She's just sick right now. Let's see.
もう明日なのです。
ん？ああ、私たちの命日？
You sound so much older here.
今回も同じ顛末なのです。
そうかしら。よく似てるけど、いろいろと違うところもあったわ。ケイチ、前のことを覚えてたし。
そんなことはありえないのです。覚えているわけ、いや、知っているわけはないのです。
あんたが絶対にありえないと言ってくれればくれるほど。
どうせ今回もおしまいです。
おしまい？
もうすぐ終わる。全部終わる。そう。日暮らしの泣く頃に。
Interesting. Was it all going to end anyway? The more often you throw a die, the closer the total will get to the average. When you throw a die 100 times, even if a miracle happens and you get a 6 twice or 3 times in a row, the total will average out in the end. that is a fact of statistics. But when you throw a die 100 times, the total number ranges from 100 to 600. The more you throw, the greater the likelihood that number will converge. On the average. But the truth is, the more you throw, the more possible outcomes you create. There are 500 different futures you can create by throwing a die 100 times. There are 5,000 different futures you can create by throwing a die 1,000 times. There might be one future among them that enables you to actually finish this never-ending game of dice. Keichii showed me a miracle, and it taught me that it's not a waste of effort to keep throwing the die. Don't give in to something like an average.
イラつく背中を見せるわね。どうせ今回もダメだろうって。私だってどうせダメだろうと思ってる。
There are 2 more arcs.
でもね、最後のサイコロを投げるまでケイイチが教えてくれた。今回は何かが違うの。だからそれを信じてみる。
リカは本当に強いのです。
まあね。あんたよりはずっと若いし。
This is some mindfuck shit right here.
リカ？こんな時間に起きてて。夜更かしはダメでございましてよ。
ごめんなさいなのです。寝苦しかったので、もう寝ますです。
そうなさいませ。おやすみ、リカ。
おやすみなのです、さとこ。
And with that, we are going to call it an episode. Next episode is the final day of this arc, it feels like. So, hope I see you guys then. I'm out of here, man. Love y'all. Deuces.